Good evening and welcome to this discussion on lessons from the parable of Adani. Let me start with the news we had in the newspaper. This is the first news. 28 January 2023 നമ്മുടെ സുപ്രഭാതത്തിൽ കിട്ടിയ ന്യൂസാണ്. 10.73 ലക്ഷം കോടി നഷ്ടം. എനിക്കിത് കണ്ടപ്പോൾ തോന്നിയത് ഒരു വയസ്സായ സ്ത്രീ ഒരു 5 പവൻ സ്വർണം മാലയുണ്ട്. സ്വർണത്തിന്റെ വില ഇങ്ങനെ നോക്കിക്കൊണ്ടിരിക്കുകയാണ്. ഒരു ദിവസം അവര് കണ്ടപ്പോഴത്തേക്കും പവന് 1000 രൂപ താന്നിട്ടുണ്ട്. 10 പവന്റെ ആകുമ്പോഴത്തേക്ക് അയ്യോ എൻ്റെ 10,000 രൂപ നഷ്ടപ്പെട്ടേ എന്നും പറഞ്ഞുകൊണ്ട് കരയുന്ന ഒരു സ്ത്രീയുടെ ചിത്രമാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നത്. കാരണം നഷ്ടം എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് വിൽക്കുന്ന വില നമ്മൾ വാങ്ങിയ വിലയേക്കാൾ കുറയുമ്പോഴാണ്. ഈ സ്ത്രീ വിറ്റിട്ടില്ല. അതുമല്ല, ഇവര് 70കളിൽ 700 രൂപയ്ക്ക് പവന് മേടിച്ച സാധനത്തിനാണ് ഇങ്ങനെ നഷ്ടമായി എന്ന് പറയുന്നത്. നമ്മുടെ ഈ മീഡിയയുടെ അധപതനമാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്. ഇതിന്റെ തന്നെ ഒരു സബ് ഹെഡിങ് നോക്കുക. വിപണിയെ വിറപ്പിച്ച് ഹിൻഡൽബർഗ് മിസൈൽ. ഏതാണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ മറ്റുള്ള രാജ്യങ്ങള് ഇവിടെ നമ്മളെ ആക്രമിച്ചതായിട്ടാണ് ഇവര് പറയുന്നത്. ഞാനിത് കണ്ടപ്പോൾ എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത് മീഡിയയുടെ അല്പത്തരം അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഇല്ലിറ്ററസി ഓഫ് ദ മീഡിയ എന്നാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്. ബട്ട് ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദ മീഡിയ ഇൻ ഇംഗ്ലീഷ്. ദിസ് ഈസ് ദ ഫാക്ട്. Adani shares fall as the short seller flags its substantial debt. അതാണ് സത്യം. അദാനിയുടെ ഷെയർ താന്നു. നഷ്ടവും ലാഭവും ഒക്കെ പിന്നീടാണ് നമുക്ക് കണക്ക് കൂട്ടാൻ സാധിക്കുക. പിന്നീട് നമുക്കറിയാം, there was some strikes in some part of India, say setting fire to the effigies of Adani and also Modi. There were also strike by the MPs in the parliament demanding a joint parliamentary committee or Supreme Court monitored probe on the Adani scandal. And this is what the Supreme Court said. Supreme Court interfered and asked the SEBI to look into the matter. The government allowed no objection. The government said to the Supreme Court's panel requirement. And today we hear that Supreme Court is setting up a committee and it is asking the government no suggestions. They will set up an expert committee and they will look into the matter. And in between, the justice has asked, Chandrachud has asked for what is short selling. If you want, I can also explain what short selling is in the meantime. So all this issue, to explain this, we will commence from the commencement. Gautam Adani's growth saga. Is a Gujarati college dropout, started his entrepreneurial journey in Gujarat, first in diamonds, then into PVC, then into exports. So his first company was called Adani Exports. It later changed it to Adani Enterprises and it was incorporated. And they went for their initial public offer in 1994 for 140 rupees. Then they set up another company. Then in 2008, he became a billionaire. Billionaire means 9 zeros. So that is his valuation with regard to all his shares. Then he started a project in Australia which had some issues with the government and also with the environmentalists. It seems after some 10 years, it has been settled and he is going ahead with the project. 2015, he had restructure of his companies and he started new companies to set off the earlier projects. He got the contract for Bombay Airport He became a centi-billionaire. That means 100 billion. His value exceeded 100 billion. He entered Sri Lanka for constructing a seaport, and latest in Haifa, he has a contract in Israel. These are the companies, 7 of them in Adani's name, and this one is in collaboration with a French oil company, and this one with a Singapore company. This is the only FMCG company, and these are the products you might have come across. Fortune. They are supposedly the largest edible oil manufacturer in India. Now, these ACC and Ambuja Cements were taken over by purchasing the holding company share, Wholesome Swiss. And of course, we know about the NDTV. NDTV had taken a loan from another company, and with the provision that their loan shall be converted into shares. Now, Adani took over that company, and thus NDTV is also into their fold. If you look at Adani, this is the one I had taken from my magazine. Adani has its presence all over India. They have thermal plants, gas, solar power, cement, mining, ports, airports, everywhere. And what is their size of business? They have 7 airport, 23% share, 13 ports, 30% share, warehouses, 30%. They are the biggest private generator of electricity, largest producer of edible oil, cement with ACC and Ambuja 14 to 10%. And they are entering into new areas, into defense 2017, road they are into 2018, and the latest is data centers, which they started in October 2022. Now, this is the meteoric rise of their share prices. So just look at this in the last 3 years. If we take 2019, this price was only 124. It rose to a peak of 4,125. Can you tell me how many times it has increased? It is over 33 times. Now, my point is, when these prices rose to such a high, nobody took notice, nobody was there, the Supreme Court was not even intervening. When the share prices falls by 50%, then immediately there is a hue and cry. So this is something which I don't agree with the media. Media is always with adversity. When something goes beyond what is expected, that should also have been brought to the notice. And this is how he rose. If you compare it with the well-known Mukesh Ambani, in 21, he went over him. Just overtook him. He was in 2022 the richest person in Asia, and he was the third in the world. And 136 it is written there, it went up to 151. That is when he became a billionaire, along with the other 4 persons in the world. This was again, I tell you, the biggest wealth gainer in the world. Nobody took notice of that, and nobody was talking about it. When the share prices falls by its peak by 50%, everybody gets notice. So in a way, it's good that we have taken notice and we come to know of this meteoric rise and steady fall after this particular incident. But there was a caution raised by a few people, and these are the 2 I came across. Value is far higher. It was by Equity Master in September. In our own, Geojit said, stratospheric valuation of Adani stocks is a matter of concern. Again, this was not picked up by the media and not taken up by the others concerned. That is what worries me when you talk about what happens around. When it say unparalleled growth, unexplainable growth, why did no one took notice and no one took action? And Adani was planning what is known as an FPO, follow public offer. As I told you, they had an initial public offer. This is the second time they were going. This was planned in January 27. I will expand and show it to you. The offer for 20,000 crore. This was the largest public offer. And the price of the shares were fixed at 3,112 to 3. This is a band. This is a price bidding process. There is a price will be built up according to the bidders. But this was the offer. This was the background. So this was scheduled for 27. This is when this company struck. This is called a Hindenburg research. They specifically they say they are a short seller. Now, who is a short seller? As Chandrachudan asked, what is a short seller? I will try to explain briefly what is a short seller. Say a company's price is, say XYZ company's price is 100. And somebody thinks that its price will come down. So he will sell these shares of this company, say at 98, 50 shares. Mind you, he has no shares in hand. So he enters into a contract to sell it. And as he expects, its prices come down to 90. So when it comes down to 90, before settlement, he buys the 50 shares at 90 rupees and he settles it at 98 rupees. So what is the profit he makes? He makes a profit of 8 rupees per share for 50. Thus, he makes a rupees 400 share, 400 rupees profit. This is what these short sellers do. Or in other words, they are the bears. They expect that the market will come down. So these Hindenburg research, they did a research for 2 years on Adani, and they came out with a 101-page report. This was their heading. How the world's third richest man is pulling the largest con in corporate history, which came in January 24. Remember, the FBA was planned for 27th. They asked 88 questions. I'll just give you some important ones. They said the promoters were criminals. They were charged by the court. The funds flow from shell companies. They clearly say 38 shell companies in tax havens in Mauritius, UAE, and Caribbean islands. SEBI had undertaken some investigations. Clearly, when the prices went up, an MP of Namada Banerjee had asked for an investigation. SEBI was conducting. Under RTI, it is known that they are still conducting an investigation. And they said it is debt laden. That means they have much more debts than their equity. And their auditors were tiny in size, at least for a few of their companies. And they said some of the journalists who have criticized them have been jailed or silenced. They clearly quote from what is available in the public domain from our own media news. So it is worth reading. If you want to see 101 pages, it is available in the public domain. Now, Adani came out with a response in January 29 with 413 pages. Many of them are documents to support what they are saying. But look at their first statement. This is a calculated attack on India, the independence, integrity, and quality of Indian institutions, the growth story and ambition of India. And say, they, for example, the first one was they have filed criminal charges. They say that the Hindenburg has not looked into later on. All these charges have been cleared by the court, and they give the instances where the promoters or the relatives who were found fault by the court have been exonerated by the High Court. and their reply is on three themes. They say that they are only showing something which is already available in the public domain. They ignore what is legal and applicable here in India and under industrial practices. And they say that they're condemning the regulators and the judiciary. Or in other words, they're talking, we have a regulatory system here. We have the judiciary who will be looking after anything which goes wrong here. Why should you interfere? That is the tone at which they have put down these words there. It is also interesting to read through that. About this time, remember, Adani was not here. He was in Israel, 30th January, with the Prime Minister of Israel, mind you. What for? In Haifa, signing of Adani ports 1.2 billion takeover of Haifa, Israel's largest port. So Adani from Australia to Sri Lanka as moving into the most strategic area in the world today, Israel. And mind you, when there was a bidding, he offered 55% above the next bidder. So he is going to that place, and that is 30 January when his FPO was in operation and it was finding difficulty to get funds. But the FBO got cancelled, or the company cancelled it. If you look at the FBO, I told you about 20,000 crores. Certain portion was reserved for the retail investors, of which only 11% were subscribed. About the employees, only 56% of them applied, but who saved them was the foreign institutional investors from Dubai, from America, from England. They salvaged them, and it was oversubscribed. But remember, they are offering it at 3,000 rupees and above, and their share prices have come down to 1,700. So the company thought it is not proper, and they said, we are withdrawing, we are cancelling the FPO. And the reason they say it is not morally correct on our part that we offer the shares at 3,000 rupees when the market price is only 1,700. This is a moral correction they have done on 1st February. This is the Hindenburg impact. After the report, the prices plummeted. So you look at February 3rd, the prices came more than half. This is their major share, major company. This is the total market capitalization of all the companies together under Adani. Now, this is the loss Manorama was talking about, that 1,00,000 ഒക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ തുക 10,00,000 crore ഒക്കെ പറഞ്ഞ ഈ മൊത്തമുള്ള തുകയാണ്. So they were referring to this total fall in the market price or market capitalization of the Adani companies. And this is what Bloomberg said, the share of Adani, the individual person, that means number of shares held by him into the market value, that also plummeted, losing. Look at the value here, 1,40,000 to 100 billion fall in his value. And he was the greatest loser according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index. If you look at Forbes, they evaluate the wealth of the persons on the basis of their net worth. Net wealth means the value of their shares if they are held by them, And so what Forbes do is they have timely valuation. Every 5 minutes it is changing. So every year the highest is given there. You see that in 2018, 154 was his rank, 167, 154. The highest was in 22, was the third. Now, after this report, what happened on 9th February 17, today, this morning at 9 o'clock, I found it to be 24th position today. Now, today at this time, it may be even lower or higher, I do not know. Now, what I felt was, എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത് നമ്മുടെ മലയാളത്തിൽ ഉള്ള ഒരു കവിതയുടെ ശലകമാണ്, അതിൻ്റെ ഒരു ഭാഗമാണ് എനിക്ക് തോന്നിയത്. 2-4 ദിനം കൊണ്ടൊരുത്തനെ തണ്ടിലേറ്റ് നടത്തുന്നതും ഭവാൻ, മാളി മുകളിലേറിയ മന്നനെ തോളി മാറാപ്പ് കയറ്റുന്നതും ഭവാൻ. അതെ, ഇതിന് ഒരു മാറ്റം മാത്രം നമ്മളൊന്ന് വരുത്തിയാൽ മതി. ഭവാന് പകരം നമുക്ക് സ്റ്റോക്ക് മാർക്കറ്റ് എന്ന് വെച്ചാൽ മതി. സ്റ്റോക്ക് മാർക്കറ്റിന്റെ വില കൂടുകയും കുറയുന്നതനുസരിച്ച് വലിയ പണക്കാരനാക്കുകയും അവനെ താഴെ ഇറക്കാനുമായിട്ടും സാധിക്കും. ഇപ്പോൾ ഷെയർ മാർക്കറ്റ് ഉള്ളവരെ ഒന്ന് സൂക്ഷിക്കുക. യു ആർ ഡിപ്പെൻഡന്റ് ഓൺ ദി സ്റ്റോക്ക് മാർക്കറ്റ്. So there are 3 threats. So this is the third threat on Adani. Remember, in 1988, he was kidnapped in Ahmedabad, reportedly for a ransom of 1.5 million. In second, in 2008, November 26, the Mumbai Taj terrorist attack, he was in the restaurant. He was taken to the basement along with the other guests, around 160 of them. He stayed in the basement and he was saved from the attack. Now this is the third one, which is more heinous. It is not a physical one. It is on his name and the company and his empire. How will he face it? That's a big question mark. Let us wait and see how he reacts. Now this was heading of The Economist last Saturday. This is how I took up the name of the today's discussion. We remember parable is a moral story from which we can get lessons. So here also, I think that we can learn a lot from this parable of Adani. Among the different discussions on this topic, the one I found to be academic and objective and non-political was from a professor, Aswad Damodaran, in New York University Stern. He's a specialist in valuation. Now, here are his opinion. I may not agree with all of them, but here it is what he says. It would be good if you can, those who are interested, especially management students, if we can go to his website. He has a blog, Musings on Market, and you will get the details there. What he says is, this is not a con. Now, con means a person who is fooling people without any base, like a Ponzi scheme. We had Charles Ponzi, we had Madoff. At the end of it, they found out that they were using the money of the people to pay back the earlier customers. Now, this is no, it is not a con. He has assets on which he cannot be compared to a con. And he says debt-drivenness. Many of their companies are infrastructure and therefore it will be debt-driven, but the debt is also exceeding the limit. He says the regulators in India, he's from India, he's from Tamil Nadu. He knows, he has been in America for 45 years following the followings in India. And therefore he says, the regulators here are not corrupt. He says they are indifferent and inertia. Anyway, I disagree on that to a certain extent. And he says, if you value the shares of Adani, you will put it at according to his financial calculation, it will be 947 shares, 47 per share. So those who are interested will have to still wait for some more time. Now, in his own, say, it is given here, Aswan Damodaran's study. He said these are the holdings of the Adani. This major one is Adani Holdings. Adani company itself is holding. Foreign institutions. Look at that. The Indian institutions are very low, 1.18 LIC. Now, retail investors are only 2.08. Now, what I mean is, if you look at the Manorama News, 10.73 lakhs, only 2% of it is in the common people. The rest is falling on the others. So, this is the reality we have to find out, because this is a company which is fully controlled, and there is an issue. Those who are technically known, what is known as a free float, the shares which are available to be let in by the public, and that is a question mark on them. That means, in other words, there were only few shares available and there was a great demand. That might be one of the reasons. Or was it some manipulation on the basis of somebody else playing around with the shares? Now, something which is positive. Now, Adani's loss has not affected the Indian market in general. There was an initial fall, but they are looking up. Now, this is something positive about the stock market in India. While the stock market in other countries are falling, Indian stock market is looking up in spite of the billions lost by the Adani. Or in other words, people have made Adani's fall go by, and they are looking at ahead to the share market. And one another positive note is that the number of retail investors have increased in India phenomenally, and they are in youngsters joining them. And especially we saw it in the time of the COVID, might be confined to home and not going out. Online trading allowed them to get into the share market, and a phenomenal number of people are entering the stock market. So it is a warning for them. Be Beware of these Adanis. Make your safe and secure investments. And this is the one dictum we often say: do not put all eggs in one basket. This is usually we say in the case of investments. So that's why if you have money to invest, put them in different portfolios. That's what we call. Why in the case of projects by government? When the government is also giving projects, shouldn't they look at this particular dictum, putting everything into one person? And there was such a caution made here. It was in 2018, Department of Economic Affairs, when they were putting the city airports for bidding. They had included a clause, or they have suggested that not more than two airports will be awarded to the same bidder. It was in their minutes, but that was given a go by. And also, the Niti Aayog said there should be sufficient technical capacity for the bidders. That also given a go by. In fact, when the Adani enterprises were given, the other bidders were GMR Group, which was running the Mumbai Zurich Airport and Cochin International Airports, who had prior experience. But the clause for prior experience was cancelled in favor of Adani Enterprises, and Adani might have given a better term. In terms of rupees, they might have offered a better bid, and they were given. Or in other words, all caution was given, was thrown to the winds in giving the bids to the Adani group. So this is my take of the governing body or governing agencies in India. They have to be beware. I do not know who said it. I think it is Nani Parkival who said, "You are watchdogs, not lapdogs." What does it mean? These agencies, they have to be watching over them. You should not be sitting and getting petted by these people. That is what is happening to many of our regulatory bodies here. Instead of taking care of the government or taking care of the public in general and watching over what these actors or the players are doing, they went into their lab and they were in favor of them. In other words, instead of governing them, they were being governed by them. There is a governing dilemma, I would say. I want to say a story which was used by Toni Morrison, Nobel laureate in 1993. That was used in a different context. I use it in a different context. There was the stories. There was a blind old lady, and a few boys around came to her, and they are asked. They had a bird in hand, and they asked her, "We have a bird in hand. Is it dead or alive?" She didn't answer. You can't see it. They again repeated the question, and she replied, "I know there is a bird in hand. It is dead or alive. Depends on you. You can keep it alive, or you can kill it." That is exactly the question with the governing bodies. How much should we control? If there is too much control, what happens is you are killing. You are killing the capitalism, entrepreneurialism. At the same time, too less control, they will be taking off and ruling the world. So, how much should be the control? That is the dilemma. When you talk about capitalism, capitalism is all about taking risks, people coming out with innovative ideas, getting into new areas, into new planes. And therefore, we should promote them at the same time, how we should control them to what extent. So that is the dilemma with the governing bodies. In India, we see that there is a nexus between politics and business, and there is no doubt about that. There was a time when Manmohan Singh was the prime minister. He said, "If you want to be the minister, you should just forego all your business connections." Gone are those days. In 1985, the ban on corporate funding was lifted. In 2000, there was a promotion, there was a deduction allowed under the Income Tax Act for the donation to political parties. Foreign companies were allowed to contribute through their subsidiary in India. There was a cap on the donation up to 7.5, that also was lifted. And nowadays, there is another means of donating to the political parties called electoral bonds. Electoral bonds are like bearer bonds. No name will be given there. You can purchase it from scheduled banks and give it to a party. They will not know the name of the party, of course. They will go and tell the persons concerned. So, in other words, white money will flow. The person will not be known, but the political parties will know who is paying whom, and favors will be expected from them. There was a book written by James Crabtree in 2018. He was a journalist in Financial Times. He says this is a billionaire Raj in India. Billionaires are ruling India. He has come up with a term here, Bollywood plus oligarchs. Oligarchs are, say, in Russia, oligarchs are, say, few people controlling the market. So, monopoly is one person controlling the market. When a few of them control, each of them is called oligarch. So, putting them together, he came up with the term oligarchs. So this is a oligarchs world in India. That is his statement. Now, this is confirmed by the Oxfam latest report in 2022. We have 119 billionaires in India, and we have 70 new millionaires every day. And he says, if we take billionaires' fortunes, it will be equal to the union budget value. So that is shows confirms what Crabtree has said. Now we come to the last part. If we look at India economic timeline, these are two important years. 1947 we had independence. 1991 the LPG was introduced. What we now call it as neo-liberalization. So we had kingdoms, kings who are ruling the country. Then we had the British ruling us. And after independence, we call ourselves the socialist democracy. After 1991, we moved out from that path and we call it as democratic capitalism. That means we are talking about democracy-loving, capitalist, respecting country. But is it not moving towards crony capitalism? Crony capitalism means a system where a few get the benefits over the others. So from democratic capitalism, are we moving on to crony capitalism? Now, if you look at this particular timeline, I want to bring to your notice 4 companies. The first company is East India Company. It was set up in 1600. This is the first company to be set up. In fact, there was no company system at all. The group of people coming to India for trading got a charter from the monarch, British monarch, and they were given permission to do business. You must remember, East India Company also had an army to protect them, to attack whoever was against them. And that is how the British came into rule. There is another company I want to tell you, which many people may not agree, but the Tatas. They were set up in 1868. Remember, it was Gusarwaji Tata. That is in 1868. They built up the steel company, their own, Indian Institute. And you must remember, the classic case is that of the Tata Airlines started in 1932. There is the story is told about how they started. 1932, when they wanted to start the Tata Air services, the British government did not allow them. In fact, they got the assistance of a person called Neville Vincent, a South African-born Englishman. He then met the Viceroy, Lord Wellington in Simla. He got the sanction. In the Tata book, J.R.D. Tata says Neville Vincent is the founder of Tata service. So what I mean is the pressure, lobbying was also used at that time. And the Tata Airlines is a company, Tata Airlines is actually synchronizes with India's progress in its economy. Just remember, the Tata Air Services became Air India. It was nationalized when it was socialist democracy. Our policy was nationalizing the private companies. This was typically what happened to Air India. It was nationalized. It was separated into Air India and Indian Airlines. And after 1991, it was brought together and it was found to be running into losses. These public sector enterprises, mind you, in 2021, they decided to take over. Now, Tata's, I would say, they were in the nation building, and they came to the rescue of the airlines, bringing back that same old glory, or that is what they intended to do. And the latest news is that they are going for 450 Airbuses. They are bringing back the dead or dying Air India. So Tata's, I would say, was started during the British rule. They have survived to the socialist democracy, and now they are into the democratic capitalism. But mind you, during the socialist democracy, when there was difficulty in getting things passed, there was one issue which some of you might remember. There was a lobbyist called Neera Radia in association with the Tatas. But the Tatas will never appear as the richest person anywhere. That is how the structure is. If you look at the total wealth of the Tatas, which runs over 100 companies with Tata and without Tata names. For example, Titan is a Tata company. But this is a trusteeship. All these shares are held by a parent company called Tata Sons, and the shares are held by a trust. And no one person will be holding the particular shares. So Tata is an example of a company which was with the nation building, which was with the nation through its thick and thin. The second company I want, or the third company I want to tell is Reliance Industries, which was started in 1966. In the case of Tata's, we have the fifth generation at present. In fact, they are run out of generations and they couldn't find a successor. And they went over to somebody in the Parsi family. That's the Palonchi. That is how Cyrus Misri came, and there was an issue. He was removed, and of course, he passed away last. So, Tata's in their fifth generation. Now, Reliance Industries, we know that it was started by Dhirubhai Ambani in 1966 under strict license Raj. He went through. They had good lobbying, they had connections in the government, and they could get through. And see how they have gone through this. And they are into the second generation. When the Reliance Industries, Dhirubhai Ambani died also, there was issues of succession. There was no clear-cut means of succession. There was no clear ways of division among his sons, and there was issue there. But they are going ahead, and his second generation, at least one of them, is doing well, and he is also taking advantage of the democratic capitalism. Another way, or along with Adani, or in other words, Adani has taken over or overtaken Reliance in this right. Adani, I would say, is the child of the democratic capitalism. He came up after the neoliberalism, and he had connections, as we all know, with the top persons, and therefore he could move around at his own will. And that is what is happening around here. So you must remember, the companies are there, and then he claims to be a nation builder along with the prime minister. There were other companies doing that, and with credibility, with transparency. If you look at what James Crabtree tells in his book, I've just written Maharaj. We had Maharaj, then we had British Raj, License Raj, and Billionaire Raj. That is what he calls it. Now, Maharaj I included. So, British Raj to License Raj. Now we are going to Billionaire Raj. So, it is a time to look at is it the way to go around? Now, in this Billionaire Raj book, he says, he compares this billionaire Raj to Gilded Age in 1880s in America. Those who have connection with English literature, Mark Twain coined the term Gilded Age. This was the time the tycoons, crooked tycoons, were ruling the country after the Civil War. But America moved from there to progressive age in 1920s. So what James Crabtree is telling is that we may be in the billionaire Raj. We can move ahead if we take the right steps. But at the same time, I have also doubt, are we going back to the system where East India Company had their own army? Are we giving such a free hold on such companies? Should we not take hold of the rein and ensure that we move into the progressive age and not go back to an age where we have companies ruling the country? So these are the lessons we have learned, and let us hope that we can march towards progressive age or Purna Swaraj. Thank you very much.